Hello, everyone. Welcome to the ATYL live stream on a Wednesday night. Good to see you all as you tune in. Of course, my name's Taylor Kitchen. I'm your host of the show, co-hosted by Adam Lucas and Dom Joseph. Boys, how we doing? Flipping it easy.
It really isn't, it just isn't.
Yeah.
Mad respect to those in Akron.
Shout out Akron.
Oh my goodness. No, we have a very special guest coming on later in the show. We're excited to welcome Brent Wentz later on to talk about his experience of doing the double. But as a spotter, we hear about it from the driver's standpoint all the time. We don't hear it from the crew member's standpoint often. So I'm excited to talk with him later about that. But for now, let's get into some topics with Kansas. Dom, bring up the vibes here, because I know the vibes are a little off today. I know we're all like, oh, Wednesday, middle of the week, a little under the weather for some of us, but like, heighten us up a little bit. How was Kansas?
Well, one thing for sure, I mean, say what you want about the racing, we had picture perfect weather all weekend long.
Oh, yeah.
And gosh, was that great.
Yeah.
Not a cloud in sight every day. We had zero concerns, and that is the best possible start to a race weekend you can have, going into it knowing, okay, don't even have to worry about the radar. Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go racing. So yeah, it was good. It was a great weekend. Obviously, fans are disappointed we didn't get the spectacular that was last year's race, and they're not always going to be home runs. So congrats to Kyle Larson for getting himself to the front and staying up front. I know his car was different behind cars, so for Cliff Daniels and that number 5 team to get him back to the lead, kudos to them, because that's where the car was at its best. So credit to them. Unfortunate Christopher Bell couldn't make the catch to make it an interesting finish, but he had the same issues that Larson did, and that was the car would fall off as the long run progressed. So in a sense, Larson was losing time while Bell was losing time as well. There's no difference there. So Larson keeps the lead and wins.
Mm-hmm.
Gutted for Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski.
Oh, man, I
know. As for Chase Elliott, those are 3 guys that, I mean, obviously Chase and Keselowski for sure had cars that could have won the race. Denny Hamlin, too, was storming up to the front without a clutch, and then finally got to pit road, and that just ended his day, not having a clutch. But it is what it is. And that's where you got to give credit to the Hendrick 5 team, because they made no mistakes. And that is the say all be all in racing. You have to be perfect all the way through, driver and team. And that's why it's a team sport. And that's why they deserve this victory. Kudos to them. And then congrats to Carson Hocevar for winning the truck race. But not a huge fan of how he finished that race. But that's a whole different story. It was a great finish. Between him and Lane Riggs. And thank goodness the 7 won, because of the 34 won and then got kicked out. That would have been a whole nother story.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Man, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the nose there. What am I trying to say? You know what I mean?
Nail on the head.
You got it. I combined 5 different phrases here.
It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday. It's fine. But no, you made great points there. And I think what Kansas came down to was execution. And we know that 5 team is so good at executing these races. And when they seem to have lost their rhythm in a race, I know the Achilles heel of that 5 team was kind of abusing that right rear tire. Larson was like, dude, I don't know what to do. This 9 car is really fast. Like, what can we change? And Cliff Daniels got on the radio and was like, you got to be lighter on that right rear tire. Like, that's what's going to do you in. And again, they made the adjustment. Some teams, when you make adjustments, they crumble, not the 5 team. So a great win for Kyle Larson. Unfortunate to see how the truck race ended there. I will say, wasn't a huge fan of how it ended, but congrats to Carson Hocevar on the win. Hate it for Lane Riggs, but I think he has a good chance to kind of make up for that this weekend at North Wilkesboro. He's competing in some of the Cars Tour events, and of course, as a full-time truck series driver, will be competing in that too. And he's really good at the short tracks, you guys. So maybe some redemption for Lane this weekend. Adam, any takeaways from Kansas as we kind of close out that conversation?
Well, I had mentioned it last week about certain drivers needing to have good luck finally go their way. Good luck went Ryan Blaney's way with the top 5.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
However, the bad luck bug, as you mentioned, hit Keselowski at
I know what I hate it.
Worst possible time. That was my biggest takeaway was this weekend was, for all the good luck a lot of these drivers looked like they were having, then in the end, they got bit in the butt again. So maybe this year is just not the year for certain guys. It might just be let's survive and go on to 2026 at this point. It's looking rough. I know we're not halfway yet, but it's pretty gloomy.
And yes, we're only 12 races in, and you talk about like maybe some drivers and some teams need to throw in the towel. Yeah, I mean, I think with this stretch of races that we're going to have with some more of the mile and a half in a schedule, I also think too we're coming up on a lot of road courses, right? And that's going to be a huge shift for some of these teams that maybe have been doing well and then might not. Like I think about John Henry Nemechek, for instance, who isn't a fantastic road course racer, but he's been knocking out some great results. That 42 car, it's the best I've seen it. I think we've all seen it in a bit. Another top 10 for him. And I'm like, I don't know. I think he's going to struggle at these road courses coming up. But for Ryan Blaney, at least, I got to talk to him this morning. We'll have more content coming out on Racing America in the next few days. But for Ryan Blaney, though, I mean, the consistency with that team, I mean, he feels like they're finally hitting their stride. A lot of it is just they've been good all season. Like we talked about, though, in past lives, it's just at the mistakes or being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it's trying to lessen those. He knows going into the All-Star race. He's won an All-Star event before. It wasn't the prettiest win. It was a little scary, sketchy, but he's won one before. Maybe he can go for a second one this time at North Wilkesboro. And he's great at the short tracks. He has some of the best averages at short tracks of the active drivers. Not the best, but one of. And then, of course, a 600 winner in 2023. So there's some good tracks coming up for that 12 team. Of course, like we talked about earlier, too, in previous lives, a new pit crew, some swaps on that 12 team. And I think they're kind of finding their rhythm finally. So Blaney fans out there, take a deep breath. We're going to be okay. You guys are going to be okay. We'll be fine. With that said, though, obviously a huge week of racing coming up in the next 2 weeks. This week, of course, we're kind of prepping for that with the All-Star race, and then we go to the 600 week. We will be doing our ATYL live roundtable next week on Tuesday. So we'll make that announcement, but we are shifting dates a little bit to kind of accommodate to everyone's schedule. So next Tuesday will be our grand show talking about Monaco, Indy 500, and of course the Coca-Cola 600. So make sure you're tuned in for that. But let's get into some NASCAR news and hot topics, things that came out today, things to talk about. Justin Allgaier is getting another shot in the Cup Series, doing what he did last year, filling in as a reserve driver for Kyle Larson in the case that he needs one for the 600 or for the All-Star race, as Kyle Larson's going to be going back and forth between Indy and Charlotte, or I guess North Carolina, the next 2 weeks. With that said, too, Allgaier will be practicing and qualifying in the number 5 for the All-Star race. First off, I mean, Adam, a huge opportunity for Allgaier. I know you're a big fan of his. I mean, expectations, if he's got to run in the 600 again, I mean, knowing how well he did when he had to. I mean,
the proof is in the pudding that, yeah, he can. He's probably one of the best fill-in backup driver, whatever you want to call him, emergency sub.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the 5 team is in great hands with him behind the wheel for this weekend at North Wilkesboro, and the possibility of having to start the 600 if need be.
If need be.
So, yeah, I think it's a good fit.
Yeah, I think Hendrick Motorsports has already been pretty clear. Like, the Coca-Cola 600 is the primary for Kyle Larson. If things run over in Indy, he is getting out of the car and going to Charlotte. They're not going to let what happened last year happen again. It was bad enough he wasn't going to get points for that race.
I mean, that's what kind of ultimately cost him the regular season championship, might I remind us all.
It's what cost him the NASCAR Cup.
And there you go.
Every point matters, apparently. But yeah, I think having Justin Allgaier back in the 5 car, I mean, he really has become the super sub for Hendrick Motorsports. And I think it's because they kind of know, he is very committed to the Xfinity Series and that number 7 team. He has found his niche, is the newly minted champion of the Xfinity Series. He's not trying to prove anything any further. He knows what he can do as a race car driver. He has established himself as being an Xfinity Series regular for the past 10 seasons,
right?
Before he went up to Cup for a couple years. It's an established face, and he's going to take care of the equipment. And it also helps he had a good audition last year in the 600, and he brought home a pretty solid finish for that 5 team. I know for the 5 standards. They want to be up there competing for the win.
100%.
But that was all just heat of the moment. Okay, he actually isn't going to make it. Justin, you got to get in there. I think this is the right choice for Hendrick Motorsports. A no-brainer, really. Obviously, I feel like people were like, "Oh, put Zilich in the 5. Let Zilich get in there."
No.
I think Justin Marks would like to have a word.
Yeah.
This is the best pick.
Yeah, Justin Allgaier for this. I mean, again, a veteran, he's calm under pressure. I mean, making a Cup start already this year, obviously not for Hendrick Motorsports, but for the 500 with Junior Motorsports, a big deal. I mean, so he already has his feet wet with the Cup Series this year at least. So I think if it comes down to it for running in the actual events, he should be fine. But otherwise, I mean, a good pick. I know when they teased, like, he was going to fill in for Kyle Larson if he misses. It's like, well, somebody who fits in his seat most likely. And everyone's like, oh, who could it be? I'm like, guys, come on.
I was going to say that. Well, I kind of did. Well, pun intended. That's the driver that fits.
Yeah, exactly.
He fits. Literally.
Literally. But that's the news with Justin Allgaier filling in there. We did miss one talking point from Kansas that I do kind of want to bring up here that Ravaging Wolverine did. Kansas showed me that Jesse Love and Corey Heim are not, in fact, the same person. Obviously, one has more Cup starts than the other, so we have that to weigh in. But I think more so for me, highlighting Corey Heim, doing a great job this weekend, the best of the 2311 drivers. Obviously, some of them ran into some issues, unfortunately, were caught up in some incidents. I think for me, the shock was Tyler Reddick, just lack of speed. The whole organization, I was like, what's going on? We have Riley Herbst, who had a pit road penalty late in the race, could not recover from that. But ultimately, I mean, great showing for Corey Heim right off the bat. He said, he's, patiently awaiting maybe a full-time Cup ride, but he's happy with where he's at right now, the opportunities he has. And I mean, you guys, he's a constant threat to win in truck. Like every single weekend, if you don't know who to pick, it's Corey Heim. Like, you know what I mean? But I guess my whole thing too is just kind of seeing how Jesse Love and Corey Heim continue to do when their one-off starts. I believe they have 1 or 2 more this year, if not more, that have been announced. But something I just wanted to mention real quick.
Yeah, I think one thing for sure with that is, again, there's 2 teams that are scratching their heads leaving Kansas, and it's 2311 Racing and Trackhouse Racing.
Yeah.
Where was the speed? And I know this has been a lingering issue for Trackhouse, but for 2311, this is, Toyota had dominated Kansas Speedway for a few years in a row, and 2311's 45 car went on a tear. Where did the speed go? This just goes to show that the Hendrick Motorsports, the Team Penske's, they're adapting, and they're kind of catching 2311 flat-footed. They're catching Trackhouse flat-footed. Kind of goes to show, again, here we are in a sport where everything is single-sourced, but the big dogs are still getting the resources before the little dogs.
They'll find a way. I literally talked about this in Above the Yellow Line this week, where I'm like, listen, we all wanted a crazy finish at Kansas. We are a few years in with the Gen 7 car. These top teams are figuring it out. They are going to start to pull ahead of the other smaller teams, or I guess not top dog organizations, right? So for me, what we saw at Kansas ultimately, like, it didn't shock me per se, but it is a testament to these top teams are figuring it out. And that's exactly, I think, what we're starting to see. With that too, I guess talking more so about the weeks to come, what's ahead. We'll talk about North Wilkesboro in a second, but I do want to remind you all, for the 600, that race will be on Prime Video. It is the first of their 5-race stint. We have some comments in here about that. The bad guy said, shame Prime could not do the whole first half of the schedule. Fox has showed they just don't care anymore. And it's the Fox coverage. We talked about it on the show. It's been frustrating for sure. I think having Prime start off with one of the bigger events of the year is pretty bold, all things considered. I did see on social media, I don't know if it was Dale Jr. that posted it or Steve Letard, I forget, but one of them ended up posting like, hey, we're doing our rehearsal. And they were back in a sort of studio, makeshift studio for the Kansas race, kind of calling it from that standpoint and practicing for the 600, which I thought was pretty cool to see on social media. So they're gearing up. They're getting ready to go. Practice and qualifying have been on Prime for the first half of the season. So we do have a sense of what that coverage will look like. We just don't know what it's going to look like totally from like a broadcast booth perspective. Obviously, Dale Jr. in the booth, Steve Letard, Adam Alexander. You have Carl Edwards, right, coming in as an analyst. So pretty stacked cast there of drivers. So just as a reminder, if you do not have your streaming services yet, you might want to start working towards that. So heads up, everybody, because I kind of in the same boat over here too, but that's okay. Let's move on though. Move on. I don't know if you guys. Oh, speaking of, oh my gosh, Adam, thank you so much. This is so kind of you. I'm Happy Hour Racing, by the way, you guys. They have some of the best, and I'm not just saying this, they have some of the best motorsports merch out there, especially as we gear up for the 600 Indy 500 in Monaco weekend. You want to make sure you're repping your favorite drivers, whether you're at home or at the track. We'll be making sure we're wearing some of their gear as we go to the races in the next, 2 weeks for some of us, which will be pretty exciting. So make sure to go to happyhourracing.com/ATYL. They are the official apparel partner of ATYL Media. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description below or go to abovetheline.com/partners and you will find them there. But yeah, Adam, thanks so much. You gave me the perfect segue. I love it. Also, be on the lookout for a giveaway on my page very soon. In the next few days, I'll be posting about a big giveaway with all of our partners, so stay tuned for that. But did you guys listen to Door Bumper Clear? Actions Detrimental. Did you guys listen to that? Yeah?
Heard snippets. Heard the good snippets.
Cover to cover. I usually don't, just because I've got so much going on, but on the flight back to Kansas, I saw that it was Kyle Busch on the show, and I was like, I just have to listen to this.
Yeah. If you guys have not listened to this episode, I don't care if you don't like Kyle or Denny or it's spectacular. And I need to reiterate this. If Kyle ever has the opportunity to do a broadcasting job or a podcast, I hope to God he takes it because his insight is so valuable. It's insane. But this was such an interesting conversation. And the one thing that come out of this that really did make headlines was Kyle Busch did have 2 Indy deals lined up to run the Indy 500, to try to do the double. And they both fell through. One was with M&M's as a partner. Everyone okayed it except Joe Gibbs declined. And then you go to when Kyle was at RCR. There was an opportunity there. He had a sponsor lined up, and then he was informed that the sponsor needed to buy the car. Well, the sponsor didn't want to do that. Things got wishy-washy, and here comes Kyle Larson to swoop up the opportunity that, of course, has made mainstream news with Kyle Larson running the double. I mean, it's become a very popular race to watch because of Kyle, at least from the NASCAR standpoint. But I guess, Adam, from your perspective, isn't that wild?
It feels like a gut punch, honestly, finding out that he had 2 legitimate rides lined up and he got denied by his former owner and then denied because of a sponsor. So it just hurts to hear.
Slap in the face. Yeah.
Of course, now Joe Gibbs has kind of turned face, but now he allows his drivers to, race outside of the umbrella.
Right.
So there was a benefit in the long run to others that opens an opportunity, but it really sucks because I think Kyle Busch, that is, would have had a legitimate shot at going for the win in Indy.
Oh.
Yeah, we're talking about Kyle Busch in his prime too. 27.
This is true.
This is 2 years removed from his first Sprint Cup championship. Still winning every week, it feels like, whether it's in a Cup car, Xfinity, or truck. He was the man in 2017. This was probably the best one of the 2 opportunities. But yeah, I mean, he said M&M's had bought the car. Like he just had to get in it. He had to do no work. He just had to get in the car. And Joe Gibbs said no, and here we are. And I find that so interesting because he let Tony Stewart do it.
Yeah, it's odd.
I find it confusing.
It is a very odd case scenario for sure. It's one that makes me scratch my head as well, where I'm like, oh man, also what could have been. So yeah, that was an interesting tidbit amongst many other things from the podcast this week, Actions Detrimental, that definitely, if you haven't listened to it, please do. But again, could have been a cool opportunity. Not so much. It was funny when talking to Ryan today, because he's now a part owner in Sharon Speedway. I was like, hey, so now that you're a part owner, would you see maybe running some of those events if your schedule allowed? And he even mentioned too, we have Penske, who is pretty adamant on not letting their drivers race in different series for multiple valid reasons. And he was like, Sharon was really special when, Roger, let us run that. Me with my dad, because he hasn't really run any races with his dad, which was cool. But going forward, doesn't know if that's going to be an option. But again, different teams operate differently with these types of things. And I don't know. I hope an opportunity comes back for Kyle Busch. I think that'd be really cool. But again, he was in his prime. Does he get another shot?
No.
I don't know.
Probably not.
Probably not.
No, and I think he was the first to say he's out of the window for it.
Yeah.
And like it's different with the Penske guys because they do have their own IndyCar team.
Yes.
Kyle was going to have to go resource himself to another IndyCar team. So like you're in the Penske building. You're already being told by the Cup team and the IndyCar team, hey, no, just stay. Roger pays you handsomely to do this the best you can. Let's just focus on that.
Yep, 100%. So one opportunity for one driver, unfortunately, gone. That's unfortunate. But one opportunity for another driver is actually happening at North Wilkesboro. So we all know Harrison Burton won the Coke Zero Sugar 400 last year in, I'm going to say summer, fall, around that time frame. But winning a race in the season locks you into the All-Star event for the next year. And he's now in Xfinity full-time. So it's like, what's going to happen? Where's he going to go? Well, Ware Racing opened their doors and says, hey, Harrison, if you want to be in the number 51 this weekend in the All-Star event, go for it. And here we are, Harrison Burton racing in the number 51 for RWR. This means Cody Ware is going to be put in the 15. But this is also the first time for RWR that they're going to have a car in the All-Star race. They don't have to like try to race their way in. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. And for Harrison, I mean, I don't want to say like a shot to redeem. That's not what I mean, but to be able to go back into the Cup Series, at least this year, to do a one-off, I'd have to say Adam is pretty important to him.
I think it's a great opportunity to, showcase that, hey, yeah, I might have, gotten let go after last season, but I still can compete in Cup. I can still run these cars. Yeah, they're different than Xfinity. Maybe that wasn't my time, but I can always, reinvent myself. I think this is a step in the right direction to get back to Cup. This might lead to more opportunities later on this season. I know that, Rick Ware's got the second car, the 15, the 01. So that could be a possibility maybe later on down the season, seeing how things go with Xfinity. If that team's not doing so hot, maybe he gets a few Cup starts late summer, early fall, or if he does take off in the Xfinity Series. I know it hasn't been the best of seasons for him. This could just be maybe a really big confidence booster for him.
Yeah.
I think what he's going to be happiest about is the fact that someone recognized, hey, you've got an all-star entry. We should give you that opportunity to use it. Because there are a lot of drivers in NASCAR that would love the automatic bid to the All-Star race. Say what you want with what the product has been in recent years. We've been moving it around a lot, but it's a big event. It's the All-Star race. Come on, Adam. We're thinking about the Winston here.
Heck yeah, buddy.
Go back to one hot night in 1992. I mean, Dale had to get by Bill Elliott in the grass to win the Winston once. So, it's a big deal. It's cool to be in this race, let alone win it. It's just cool to be in this race because it means so much. It has so much history. You put it up there with the 600 Daytona, Bristol night race, Brickyard. It's just the one where people can think of previous races in previous years, to go back to Actions Detrimental, just to hear them. This is the craziest part. Cause I don't know if Adam's seen this, it shocked me to see Denny and Kyle laugh about 2010. Like Kyle was gonna kill Denny.
Yeah,
he was going to kill that
man. But again, that's just one of those moments. It's like, man, teammates will do anything for that payout, for that all-star payout, and it's just cool to be part of. So I bet Harrison's just gonna be pumped. Like, hey, thank you. Thanks for letting me at least experience it.
Yeah, it's a cool opportunity for him. I'm excited he gets to be in the big race. Like we said, it is a big deal. Depending on who you ask, it's a big payout. I mean, to us, it's a big payout. My God, $1 million. Let's go. I'll race tomorrow if that means $1 million. Unfortunately, cheapest Cup race of the year for sure. But I mean, hey, for Harrison Burton, imagine if he wins that. Like, that'd be so cool. I don't think he will, but imagine if he did. You never know. What a story.
Wild things happen at the All-Star race.
Wild things do happen at the All-Star race. Yeah, again, just the promoter's caution too. That's put out some really fun lines from different drivers and industry folks, and that'll be something that brings up those interesting moments. I am sure.
That's another good Kyle
race.
quote from the podcast.
Yes,
It's like if you really need that caution, that's when you can do a lot of your paybacking that you have owed.
Yeah. I think this year, because of those variables, is going to be pretty interesting. So I'm excited for it. Again, it starts Sunday. The All-Star Open is, I believe, at 5 p.m. on Sunday. And then we go to the main event directly after. So be on the lookout for that. Make sure you're watching. But Adam, I wanted to throw it to you because you've been keen. I'm like putting you on the spot, so I apologize. But you've been keen into IndyCar practice this week. You've been giving us updates in our group chat and things like that. I wanted to give you the floor before we bring Brent in a few minutes. What are some things that you noticed with IndyCar practice? Any surprises? Anything that shocked you?
Well, here's one thing that hasn't shocked me. Penske and Chip Ganassi, they have come in with full force. They are slinging the hammer hard. Joseph Newgarden, what he has been able to do in practice in the draft.
Oh my God,
the man's unstoppable.
He's unreal.
It's insane what I've been seeing with that. Some shockers. One of the McLarens, Lundgaard, they've had issues today. They were very slow. They were, I think, 30th out of 34. So they're in the drop zone for qualifying, if that holds true. So that was a little bit of a shocker. Graham Rahal also had some issues today. A lot of more getting familiar, I guess, with the car itself, the canopy. He was complaining about his helmet today, which is very interesting. But that's why you got another 6 hours tomorrow. You got Fast Friday. You got you got plenty of time to get this sorted out and figured out with 6 hour practices. It seems like it's a lot, but it goes by really quick. When they threw the caution out several times for raindrops today, but as soon as the green came out, there were probably 20 cars roaring off the pit road just to get time on the track.
Oh yeah.
So it's just the spectacle of it. It really is one of the greatest spectacles in motor racing.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of practice yesterday, and to reiterate what you said, it's like a lot of those guys were just in line, just again getting a feel for the car. It was the first session. It's like, okay, here we are. Let's just make sure all the bolts are tight, make sure nothing's loose. And here comes the shell number 2, just cutting through cars. It's lap 198.
Like a freaking rocket.
I can appreciate the strategy being just set the tone early that we're not messing around. And we haven't won yet this year. It's because we're putting all of our money into the 500 car. So,
they're going for 3. They are going for 3.
Oh yeah. And you know what? I don't blame them. I mean, they have to. Every team should. It's never been done, right? It's never been done. Yep. So you got to go for it. And I think if anyone can, it's Joseph. He's fantastic at oval tracks. I mean, and obviously he's figured this out, and he knows how to win in those last moments. He knows how to set himself up in those final laps, and that is crucial. I hated Pato Award last year. You kind of felt like he had it, maybe, and then just gutted for him. But again, it's I guess I don't want to say seniority, but it's knowing how to race the 500. It's having that experience that will get you that win.
He had his heart broken.
He did.
Check out the social media post about the heart broken by Pato.
Yes.
It'll make you tear up.
Oh yeah.
There is one other thing I do want to mention about practice that I've seen so far. Elio has speed.
Yeah, he does.
The shot at 5
is alive.
It's alive.
Is the drive for 5 alive again?
The drive for 5 is alive again, but he's got to go through that 2 because that 2 is looking like a damn bullet. Oh my God.
And Will Power was fastest yesterday. So it's all 3 of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Scotty Mack and Logano are going to both run the Yellow Submarine on Memorial Day Sunday.
There we go.
Dueling subs.
I need to get a Scotty Mac diecast, not going to lie. It's been on my list. I've got the Joseph. You can't see it behind me here, but kind of maybe you can. But I have the Joseph Newgarden first Indy 500 win, signed by Joseph and Tim Cindric. Pretty cool there. Looking to get a Scotty Mac diecast, though, and he won.
I think you need to get that second New Garden win. I think that's what's next on the list.
Yeah, this is next on the list. Yeah.
I'm like tempted. I'm very, very tempted to hook myself up with some New Garden shell merch. Feel like it would fit the vibe.
Yeah, you should.
The Logano stuff. And, you know, I've kind of I used to be just like committed to the Target team.
Oh, yeah.
You know, my NASCAR driver is sponsored by Shell. My F1 team is sponsored by Shell. I think I've got to commit to New Garden all the way.
I mean, go for it. Go for it.
I think
my next certified bandwagon, I guess.
I was going to say, Alex would be very pleased.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. I think my next bandwagon, I might have to jump on getting a Ron Capps diecast.
Let's go.
Speaking of which, they're back in action this weekend.
They are.
At Route 66.
66. Should be a good time. Should be good fast time.
Yes. Yeah. And spoiler for this, but Big Duke had a conversation with Ron Capps that'll be debuting next week. Should be cool as he launches his coverage of NHRA, his show. We have it all rebranded. I'm excited for you all to see that when we announce it on Monday. But that's been pretty cool. Yeah. Love that. What else? What else can we bring up? I know the Modifieds are racing this weekend too at North Wilkesboro. That's something I know I highlighted earlier. I know it's something that Rob's very excited about. Yeah, shout out to Rob. So that'll be good to watch. Also,
available on Tubi.
It is available on Tubi.
So everybody gets to watch it. Nice.
I think the one thing, if we go to the All-Star race here, I think obviously the big question is, what kind of race are we going to get this year?
Yeah.
Because, 2023, we had the Kyle Larson show. 2024, Joey Logano led every single lap. It's like, and we've got this new surface. Did it age over the winter? Did anything happen to it over the winter? How different has it changed? How will the different rubber affect it over the weekend? I think that's something that will make this All-Star race very interesting. Will we see passing?
Oh, yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. Will we see passing? Will we see Lake North Wilkesboro appear again?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Don't remember if anybody remembers that. That was an interesting Saturday.
My gosh, we're gonna learn a lot this weekend, I think, from how the track has transformed, how the competition has transformed, and how it will transform due to some fun additives from NASCAR, from the manufacturer showdown to that fun caution that we have thrown in there at some point before lap 220. But we'll get there this weekend. I want to preview what's to come with the 600 and the Indy 500. Again, like I said earlier in the show, we hear from the driver's perspective a lot about pulling the double, what that's like from the driver's perspective and how that all comes together. What we don't hear about often is the crew perspective. And Brent Wentz, spotter of the number 51 at Ware Racing and spotter for Takuma Sato for Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing and IndyCar, is going to be attempting the double yet again this year. And he's with us to chat all about it. So let's bring Brent in. See if we can do it. Ooh. Hey, Brent, can you hear us? Maybe. There we go. Hey, Brent. Ooh. Let's see. Looks like we might be having some technological glitches here. Let's try one more time. Hey, Brent, can you hear us? Oh, man, let me see if I can text him real quick. All right, as we're doing that, as I'm trying to figure out technology issues, sorry, guys, for a second.
Technology.
Technology is so fun. Are either of you two going to North Wilkesboro this weekend?
I am not. Nope, I am not.
I'm waiting to hear, but probably not.
I wanted to, but I just had a long week at Kansas. I can
That's
use the
fair.
rest up for what's going to be a very, very fun 600 weekend.
Yes. 100%. I know you guys are gearing up to go in the tents.
Oh man, I've been watching film.
He goes, I've been ready.
Well, boogity. Are you ready?
My goodness.
It's going to be a weekend. It's going to be a weekend to remember.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not for the good things, but for the going into credit card debt. Who knows?
Oh, yeah. I mean, in the Truck Series race, too. I mean, we'll talk about that lately. That should be a fun one for the 600 weekends.
Oh, Lord.
All the truck race.
Oh, my goodness.
Or as we like to refer to it, the scene of the crime.
Honestly, yes. Honestly,
the crime
yes.
of diecast passion.
Nonsense.
Oh, yes.
I mean, leading up to it, yes, in the tents.
Yes.
It's gonna be a show to witness. It's gonna be a sight to behold if you're within earshot of me and Adam.
Yes.
If you hear two grown men giggling like schoolgirls, that's probably just me and Dom.
Maybe. Yeah, I've got to keep them in check.
It's the 2005 Daytona 500 car. I need it.
I'm telling you, you might want to wait because I think Lionel's remaking it.
I think I might, as long as it has a red deck lid.
Listen, my whole thing is if they get the colors right.
Yes,
because I know sometimes the palette changes.
Yeah,
if they get the colors right, I would do that in a heartbeat. But we shall see.
Oh yeah,
we shall.
They got the Harvick race win from 01 pretty spot on.
Yeah, it was almost identical to the OG.
So I mean, they're working on it.
They're working on it. All right, we're gonna try one more time to bring Brent in, and if not, I'm sorry, you guys. We'll work to reschedule it for the future. I just want to make sure this works. Reached out, and we'll see. Brent, can you hear us?
I think that is a no.
That is a no.
No audio.
Okay. Cool. All right. I will reach out to Brent and we will get this rescheduled again. Apologies for you guys, but we will try to get that up soon. It'll be an exclusive interview on the ATYL Media platform. And I will be in touch with him after the stream. AJ, good to see you in the chat. Let's close this one out for tonight. I guess with some final thoughts going into the North Wilkesboro weekend. Any closing thoughts?
I for one, I hope for an exciting weekend. However, I'm going to be realistic. I think if you're in the top 4 at the start of this race, you're probably going to have a shot at winning. And by lap 10, if you're not in the lead, it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah. I agree.
I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, but I'm also, being realistic, knowing with what we have and what we're working with. I just got a feeling that if you're in the front row, you're legit. You got a 50-50 shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to change what we saw last year. I think the one thing that we forget, though, about Logano's win is how much test time he had going into that race. And that gave him a huge advantage. I think maybe with an even playing field this year where they're all kind of coming in with the same stuff, maybe it'll change a little bit. And who knows, maybe we get a little bit more rough racing, that we get more cautions, that we get more chaotic movement around the racetrack. I think something like that could change how this race is run. The promoter's caution is an interesting addition to this because, again, I feel like there are drivers, again, the teams are going to find a way to find a loophole into this. Just find a way to get the caution that benefits them the best. So I just think there's a lot of different ways this race could turn out. I agree with you, Adam. Passing might not be something we see a lot of.
It'll be a premium.
But again, who knows what kind of race we're going to get. It all comes down to the weather conditions, and it comes down to what side of the bed these drivers wake up on Sunday morning. Because if they wake up fixing to fight, we might see some crazy racing if they wake up wanting to just get this one in and go to the 600. Could just be conveyor belt racing.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. We're gonna give it one more try.
Yeah,
one more try.
Go
We're
for
gonna Brett's gonna log out and see if we can log back in. Just as we wait a little for a second. Yeah, my hopes are high, but I'm not confident. Not confident. we can have high hopes, and that's okay.
Do this we're all here together as a team.
100%.
Let's believe.
Let's see. Let's try one more time.
Come on.
Can you hear us?
We got him.
We're back.
Let's go.
All right.
Yeah.
This is why we don't give up.
Yeah. How's the camera look? Good?
Looks good. Here, let me do this and see. There we go. That's perfect.
All right. Yeah. I got bowls. I got all this stuff from this hotel. I'm trying to get some good.
All good. It's life on the road. Life on the road.
We're at the Stay Bridge Inn, and we're trying to get her done. So, yeah.
Well, fantastic.
Get a little reboot.
Yeah, all good. Well, it's great to have you here. Obviously, you have a big week coming up. Have had a big week at Indy. Do you mind sharing with us how this week has gone for you in Indy with practice and everything?
It's been a little wet here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, throughout the NASCAR season, we haven't had too much rain, but these guys at the IndyCar side, they always say, I bring the rain. So, so I brought a little bit here, but we've been able to get some good practice time in with Devlin and the RLL group, and it seems like we got pretty good speed. We're just out there trying to dial it in now, and maybe tomorrow we'll run some more race runs and try to get some no-toe stuff going. But yeah, so far so good. Just business as usual here in Indianapolis.
Of course, business as usual. I know for you, you have a long history in motorsports, deep motorsports roots. You're a racer yourself. For those who don't know your path, how did you get from the driver's seat to the spotter stand?
Yeah, it's my family started racing when I was about 1987. So yeah, I grew up around racing. My dad drove, my brother drove. We're from a little town in Pennsylvania with a couple little short track asphalt modified bull ring, and I just went through high school. I played a bunch of sports, but I always ended up at the racetrack on Saturdays. So it was just something that I always wanted to do. My dad owns a couple body shops up in Pennsylvania, so I've been around cars my whole life. So I figured, why not make money working on cars? You find a good job, you never work a day in your life. That's what they say.
100%.
So with your experience, you've won two of the biggest races in the world, winning the Daytona 500 with Matt Kenseth, and then also winning the Indy 500 with Takuma Sato. What were some of your emotions just realizing that, wow, you've had this accomplishment yourself personally?
Yeah, and I grew up in a little town in Pennsylvania. It's about 20 minutes from Nazareth. So, Mario Andretti and the Andretti family were like kings to us, right? I think the next superstar was Jimmy Spencer down the road in Berwick. But so winning both of them, being a stock car guy, being on the NASCAR side for a couple of decades as a mechanic and car chief and over the wall picture member, Daytona 500 was always number one on the list, right? You always wanted to win that race. You saw Dale Earnhardt try again in that race. We won it in 2009, and it was a little bit rain shortened. So, you always had that burden where, you ran a rain shortened Daytona 500, but it was always the Daytona 500. But we came back and won it in 2012. And, like I said, as a stock car guy, that's the ultimate, right? You pull into Daytona, it starts out your year, gives you momentum. It was a great accomplishment, and I'm not lying when I say that Indy 500 was never even a checklist item for me, because I watched it while I was racing the Coca-Cola 600. So it was you never even thought you were going to get there as a fan to watch, let alone work there and win it, right? So heck, when we won, I didn't even know the significance because I was like dumbfounded. Like you just won probably the biggest race in the United States or maybe the world. So, a lot of things went down during COVID. I worked for Penske for a long time and Roush for a long time, and COVID just kind of mixed things up. And for me, it was a blessing in disguise. I would have never been able to accomplish a lot of things I have in the last half a decade. So yeah, winning the Indy 500 was, you're kissing the bricks, you're getting these rings, you're doing all this fancy stuff, and I didn't even know what to think. It took a couple of days for it to all sink in. I think, the Tuesday flying back in the airport, I was kind of by myself and just thought about it and stepped outside my own box and realized, holy crap, it's a great accomplishment. Not a lot of people cross over from one to the other, and I was able to do that. I've made a lot of good friends in IndyCar racing, and that's why I continue to come back, But yeah, great accomplishment for sure.
So we talk about Kyle Larson doing the double. Tony Stewart's done the double. Kurt Busch has too. Well, you're attempting the double not as a driver but as a spotter. The Indy 500 and Coca-Cola 600 are two just entirely different beasts in themselves. But before we go into the logistics of doing this, what happened last year with the weather, and how did it all play out for you personally between Indy and going to Charlotte?
Yeah, so I did the whole same thing the 2 weeks here. I flew back to Wilkesboro, like I'll do this weekend, to do the All-Star race with Cody Ware and the RWR boys. That all went well. We flew back and forth, made it back for Monday practice here. Yeah, and then you just looked at the weather, the 10-day outlook. You keep on looking at it, which we're about a day out from the 10 days. So I'm Jones and looking at the weather, but you just watched the weather and you knew it was going to rain. I mean, it never changed for 10 days. It just said it was going to rain. So I had an airplane ready for me to go after the race with a couple sponsors that I knew that were going back and forth. And when the race kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, you just knew that it wasn't going to happen. It was kind of a little bit of a heartbreaker, but you can't control. Like I always say, you control what you can control. Mother Nature is just something you can't control. So I knew you just had to go into the Indy 500, do your job there, and we had backup plans at Charlotte with I think Kaz Grala was running her car at the time, so we were able to just make it all work. But I didn't even go back because it was raining there, it was raining here, it was just raining everywhere. So I just took the old commercial flight back on Monday. So yeah, we didn't get to do it last year. We put a lot of effort and money and things of my own to get it done. I don't have Hendrick backing, but this year, thankful to Hendrick and all the people there, I'll be getting on one of their planes after the Indy 500 and flying back with them. They have 3 planes, so obviously not Kyle's, but one of their airplanes. So logistics-wise, this year, I think it's going to work out a little bit better.
I have to imagine that it takes a lot of communication to make this work out, especially between the teams with Rick Ware and Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan. Was everyone on board when you first tried to attempt this? What were those conversations like?
Well, when I first signed up with Rick Ware to be their primary spotter on the Cup side, Robbie Benton, who's our president of our company, and Rick, they were talking about doing a double somewhat with Dale Coyne Racing, which they had a little bit of a partnership with at the time. And that kind of dissolved. And I always had a relationship with RLL, obviously when 2020 and 21, so they've always asked me to do it, but logistically it wasn't going to happen. And we talked about it with RWR, and we thought it would be a cool story and something to try to do, and they were all about it. Robbie always tells me, like, when you get an opportunity to do those kind of things, we want you to do it, and we're gonna be behind you to do it. So yeah, it was they gave their blessing, and RLL does the same. They know the logistics. In this case, not like Kyle, I have to put the Indy 500 first priority, right? So we have Chris Osborne, who spots for Corey LaJoy when we run a second car at RWR. He's going to be available Labor Day weekend for the 600. If rain comes or something logistically happens, he's going to be there to step in. So, but yeah, they've been all for it. They think it's cool, and I'm thankful for that, because who gets this opportunity, right? To do both, right? So hopefully it all works out and we can check the box and maybe take a break next year.
So with having this be your second year doing this, have you learned any lessons on what you should and shouldn't do going into this year's double?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, lighten the load on your spotter bag for sure. Last year I took a helicopter out of here and we spot and turn. We have 2 spotters at Indy, turn 1 and turn 3. We kind of split the track in half. Well, turn 1 to the helicopter pad, it doesn't look like it's far away, but when you're dragging about a 50-pound, bag on wheels,
oh my gosh,
all these people and try to get over there, it was tough. So the logistics, the flying, getting to talk to, Tracy Hunter and Jeff Andrews and everybody at Hendrick to try to make that a little bit easier, where I can just drive to the airport, get on a plane with them. And yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of things. Having everybody on board back in Charlotte, having a backup plan that's certainly in place. Yeah, I mean, we checked all the boxes this year, and obviously with anything you learn as you go. So yeah, we're just hoping Kyle can have a good run and make it all the way to the end, because if he has difficulties too, then they're probably not going to wait for me to get done. You know what I mean? So we got to hope Kyle has a good race. We got to hope we have a good race, and we got to hope Mother Nature doesn't rain.
So you're going to be working with 2 completely different drivers in 2 very, very different series. So how do you adjust between the communication styles for each driver? Because I know each one has their own expectations or just what they're used to, what they're comfortable with. And then what kind of differences are there between spotting Charlotte, where it's only 1.5 miles, you can see all the way around pretty easily from up top. And then, like you said, Indy, it takes 2 of you to get the job done.
Yeah, it's driver-wise, I use the same style of spotting I do, with our NASCAR, with Cody and Devlin. And if the driver needs something different, we'll talk about it and we'll adjust on the fly. We'll have little meetings, try to make where they're comfortable. But usually I go in with the same style. I mean, these cars are obviously way faster, but they're all going the same speed, right? It's kind of irrelevant that they're faster. They're still going the same speed. So the spotting is not really different, but it's a lot different, because the time span, what they call it in cars, pit box, the engineers, the crew chief, they do a lot of the communication to the driver, right? And in NASCAR, we take the communication from the pit box in our left ear and we spit it out the microphone to the driver. So we do a lot of the communication in NASCAR, which in IndyCar stands and everybody do more of the calculations and communications with the driver leading up to pit stops and fuel mileage and what fuel mixture they run. But the spotting, I think, is about the same. And, I use the same thing with Devlin as I do with Cody or any other drivers I've worked with in the past. And it works out pretty good. We don't tweak them too much. So, we do the Daytona 24 hours with Wayne Taylor, and you have Formula One champions, and you have the Ricky Taylors, and those guys. It's the same thing. You just go in with your style, and if they need you to change something, you just change it on the fly for them. So there's not really too much, but yeah, here you use 2 spotters. So I have Brett Casterline, a modified guy from New York who I've done the last 4 Indy 500s with. So we communicate really well. You just restarts are silly here. You go 3 wide, 4 wide. So you gotta have good communication to off of turn 2 to let him know kind of where you're at in the pack. But Devlin has Dogecoin as a sponsor, and that car is the brightest thing I've ever spotted. So cars with purple and yellow because that thing just stands out from the crowd. So it's kind of like the Menards car in NASCAR racing. It just stands out pretty well. So yeah, I think there's not too much different. In NASCAR, the drivers know who's the other cars are. In IndyCar, you have to tell everybody by name because you don't see numbers on the back, just a blinking light, a spoiler. So when you're behind somebody, you really don't know who you're behind. NASCAR, you look at the back window or the paint scheme, and it's pretty spot on. You know who you're racing. So you have to know the cars, you have to know the paint schemes, you have to know the drivers' names, and that's how we communicate. We don't communicate by numbers on IndyCar. We communicate by drivers' names. So
I'm going to go a completely different direction with my question I have next. I love your vintage brand, the Days Gone By Vintage. You were kind enough to send me some Terry Labonte stuff because we all know I love Terry Labonte. But I look on the page all the time and I see all the shirts and the stuff, and I am so floored by the collection you have. So what inspired that side of things? Where'd the love of the vintage gear come from?
Yeah, well, I have always, throughout my childhood and my life, my mom always collected antiques. My grandfather was always an antique collector, and I'd go to auctions and I'd go to, I'd buy stupid stuff all the time when I was little, and it was just something that was carried through the generations. And I've always collected antiques and automobilia, gas pumps, porcelain signs, advertising, all that. And I've always saw NASCAR stuff, but I work at NASCAR, so I don't want the stuff that I see every day. But the person that kind of made me go the leap was Ryan Blaney. I mean, I know you're a Ryan Blaney fan, but he was my driver in the Xfinity Series on the 22 Xfinity car when I car chiefed at Penske. And at that point, he was running then he started to merge in with the Wood Brothers. Well, he was a vintage guy. Like, he always wore vintage. And I built the house and I built the shop, and Ryan came over to look at the lay of the land one day, and I had a 12 by 12 box full of what I thought was junk. And it was all old racing shirts from up north, dirt modified shirts and things like that. His family was big into sprint cars and dirt modified. So he was wondering what was in the box. I said, well, just a bunch of junk, and he started going through it, found a couple shirts, a couple hats, and eventually bought that stuff in the box. And I said, whatever you want to pay for it. And he gave me, a couple bills. We're not going to say what kind of bills, but he pulled out in his Bronco, and I looked at the money he gave me for what I thought was junk. I was like, all right, I see this stuff all the time. So I started collecting it and selling it. And yeah, that's kind of how Days Gone By got started. It was a collaboration between, a Ryan Blaney and me collecting a bunch of junk. So, but yeah, that's the story. I mean, and then, Dale Jr. and Amy, they've bought some stuff, and Chase Elliott's bought some stuff. So we got some pretty good clientele on Days Gone By side.
Yeah, I love everything you collect. I think it's all so badass. And even too, like, seeing some of the drivers that have gotten stuff too has been awesome. I'm curious though, is there anything that you find that you keep for yourself? Like when you're going to the track, do you look for things for yourself as keepsakes at all?
So I have a couple things that I collect myself, which, I'm a modified guy at heart. So I'm a big Richie Evans collector. If I find any, the Rapid Roman number 61 orange modified stuff from back in the 80s, 70s, I tend to keep that kind of stuff and not sell it, because it's kind of sentimental. Because when I first started in racing in North Carolina, Richie Evans Jr., his son, I worked with my first year when I didn't know anything at all. I was just learning my craft, and he helped me along pretty good with some things. And then I worked with Nazowitz, who was actually Richie Evans' my second year in racing. So, those kind of guys, without them, I wouldn't have learned the ropes or wouldn't have got started good in the sport. So, Richie Evans stuff is high on my priority list. Every time I go to a different town, I go on Facebook Marketplace and I scomb the marketplace. I found some cool Robert Yates Texaco Haviland uniforms directly behind the front stretch grandstands at Indianapolis yesterday at a house in Speedway, Indiana. So it's all over the place. So I'm always buying stuff. If I know that it's not going to be made again, I'm buying it, right? So never going to see that stuff ever again. So I pick it up like again.
We all live under that philosophy. We all three do here. all four of us here do. Yeah, we love going to the tents at Charlotte, and it's hours and hours of looking.
I'll be honest. I think Brent needs to join us on one of our merch hunts.
He does.
5 minutes from the the antique mall in Mooresville, so I go over to that booth 34 and I look around. Even if I don't collect diecast much, but I just look around. I feel like it's like I used to be a kid, go to Kmart, and I feel like I'm in Kmart when I'm looking at all this stuff. That Zach kid does a great job with his stuff there, and it just takes me back, right? When you were a kid, you went to Kmart or Walmart or whatever, KB Toys, and you got diecast, right? And you just got it, and ripped it apart, and threw it against the walls, and crashed it, and smashed it, and that's what you did. So, yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's a thrill of the hunt, right? For anything collectible, and there's actually a collectible show that happens in Plainfield next weekend that I go to, and it's stacked with stuff. And the secret is it's all IndyCar vendors that have NASCAR stuff, and they could give a crap about NASCAR. So I just go in there and scoop it all up. Yeah, I'll take this off your hands. No big deal. So, I got my little spots. The gypsy tents at the races. If the parking lots that we park in are closed, I'll always go over there and snip around a little bit. But I'm not going to give away all my secrets. So.
A magician never reveals their tricks. A collector never reveals their secrets and tips. I get that 100%, and I respect that. But I have to go back to close this out here. You talked about, working with Richie to hone your craft. From going from that level now to being able to spot for the biggest races. I mean, what is something that you would tell your younger self if you knew where you'd be now? And how surreal is it to know that you are able to cover and be part of these huge motorsports events that you watched as a kid?
Yeah. For me, it's like you don't ever take a step back, right, and look at it all because you're so focused on the next week and the next week, right? So, like I said, after the Indy 500, I sat in the airport by myself and took it all in, right? And it kind of got a little emotional, right? Because you don't see yourself doing these kind of things, and you're lucky to have it. You gotta have support from everyone. You gotta have a supportive family because man, you're gone so much. So it chokes me up a little bit. It's cool.
It is incredible what you're doing, and we're so excited, and we're keeping our fingers crossed about the weather for you to do the double. Brent, thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you the best the rest of the season, and especially next weekend.
I just gotta, I always say just thank my family and everybody for the support. Without them, you can't do it.
100%. Family is everything. We're a big family people here. We couldn't do it without them. So 100%. Thanks so much, Brent. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Bye. That was Brent Wentz. Love to talk to him. He's a collector as well. So had to throw that in there. But no, awesome to chat with him.
The Texaco Haviland uniform
I
just
know.
behind Indy.
Seriously.
Just waiting for him to snag it.
Incredible.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. At
What a
some
legend.
point, we will have to go through the tents with him at some point. We'll have to find a way. We'll have to find a way. Or meet up at booth 34. I don't know. But no, that was awesome. Of course, like I said, we wish Brent the very best of luck for everything that's to come for the Indy 500, the Coca-Cola 600. It's a big weekend of racing for fans, even bigger for the teams, the spotters, and obviously it's a huge weekend to honor those that have served as well. So preemptively want to say thank you to those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for the country. That's going to be a huge weekend of remembering. I know as these drivers are unveiling their paint schemes for the weekend, and they have maybe a fallen soldier or somebody that they're remembering on the car, the families think about them through this as well. And I know Goat Locker Racing, or one of our partners here, they do a great job working with active duty and retired veterans to recuperate and recalibrate through iRacing. It's something super cool that they do, and they'll actually be at the 600, which will be awesome as well. But something to keep in mind this weekend as we gear up for a fantastic weekend of racing is, keep those families in mind and really thank those who are making the ultimate sacrifice for sure. But everyone, this has been ATYL Live.
Hey, Taylor.
Hey, yeah.
We've been talking about collecting stuff. You should probably display your stuff with something.
Yeah, might be something,
You might want to display your die casts on a certain stand.
Oh my God. You know what? You might want to display your die cast on a certain stand. You know what?
You might.
Maybe. I don't know.
So,
might be a good idea.
If you haven't seen my new die cast yet, by the way, I'm sure I've shown this on another show before, but this is SVG Sonoma one. Isn't it gorgeous? But isn't it just tragic, you guys? It is. You know what? Here we go. We're going to do this.
Roll the clip.
It's tragic that this does not have a stand to be on besides this that it comes in the box with. And it's so boring. It's so boring. So you need something like this from Benzik Designs. That's right, folks. We're talking about the Benzik Designs 3D printed die-cast display stands, and I'm giving one away in a few days. So stay tuned for that giveaway.
She's going full QVC.
So scan the QR code to get your die-cast stands. If you use the promo code ATYL2025, you get 20% off. That's a huge deal. Matt is a great supporter of ours. He is so innovative in the world of die-cast displays, making sure that you're able to appreciate and love your die-cast. Don't put them in the closet. Don't put them in bins in the closet. Adam, I'm looking at you. Display them on these stands. There's 124 stands, 164 stands coming. We have stands for IndyCar, Formula One. He literally has it all for you guys. So scan the QR code. Matt, we love you. We love these stands. Benzik Designs, everybody. On our website, abovetheline.com, or scan the QR code, or link in the description. So many places to find these stands. You guys, love you guys. Thanks for bringing up that segue. We love that. So I guess now we're segued out, and we are, I guess, now going to close things out. Wow, look at that, you guys. It's been such a fun show. Thank you all for sticking around and hearing from Brent. Obviously, so appreciative that he was able to take the time to join us. I know he's had such a busy week and has a busy couple of weeks here, but appreciate him showing up and telling us his story because it was awesome. Of course, we couldn't do this without our partners on brand. Shout out to you, Rahal. We got Benzik Designs, of course, Happy Hour Racing. I mentioned earlier, the Bright Mentality, and of course, Goat Locker Racing. Appreciate all they do for us. And I see you all are scanning the QR code, and that makes me so happy. Oh my goodness. Thank you all for supporting us, supporting our partners. Again, we have a big giveaway coming up on my personal and the ATYL Media Instagram and TikTok pages. TikTok for my personal page and ATYL Media for Instagram. So stay tuned for that, to where you can win some gear from Happy Hour Racing and a stand from Benzik Designs. So again, be on the lookout for that. But this is enough of the Midwestern goodbye. Thank you all so much for tuning in on this Wednesday night. From myself, Taylor Kitchen, we got Adam, Lucas, and Dom Joseph. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And until next time, we